Good morning, eighth grade. Okay, so today what we're going to do, while everybody is getting situated and logged in, we're going to start off with a warm up. We're going to continue on with our story elements, but we're going to be a little bit more specific about character development. So we're going to start there. Let me share my screen with you real quick. That way I can tell you about how today is going to go. Okay, here we go. All right, there we go. All right, so we're going to have a slideshow that we're going to go through. Also, remember that any links that I need you to get to will be in Google Classroom. I emailed them to you as well as they will be in the the chat room or the chat as well. Okay. All right. So today we're going to talk about characterization. Let's go over a little bit real quick while everybody is coming in. Okay. So our lesson objective is students will analyze how an author develops a character through direct and indirect characterization using textual evidence. That's a lot of words. The actual Oklahoma academic standard is standard 8.3 point three, which says that students will analyze literary elements to support interpretations of a literary text, in particular characterization. I also created an I can statement for you guys so that way you can have a feel or have an understanding for what we're going to be going over. Your I can statement is I can analyze how an author develops a character to help me better understand the story. So we're talking about character development. The author's, oh, there's a fly in here. The author's character development to help us to understand the story a little bit better. Just a couple of reminders that in my Zoom classroom that we do have some expectations. Most of you are on time. I'm waiting on a couple. We're not late yet. Keep your name correct. Make sure it's school appropriate. Make sure it's your name. Cameras on when possible. I need those mics muted unless you raise your hand to speak. Be respectful. Stay in a quiet place if possible. Make sure to participate, be prepared. No side apps or games, please, and then ask for help as you need to. Again, you can either send me a message over there on the chat, or you can raise your hand, and I will select your name. Okay, so like I said, we're going to warm up first. So good morning, eighth grade. While we wait for everyone to log in, click on the link in the chat to post your daily warm up in Padlet. If you've never used Padlet before, I'm going to show you what that will look like. So let's head over here to Padlet. Okay. All right, so here's Padlet, and I can see that a couple of you have already started to respond. Okay, so my original post is here. It says, characterization warm up based on only the video. What type of person do you think the character is? Okay, what clues made you think that? I had the privilege of meeting this little girl. Her name is Amani. This past summer, I don't want to give you too much information. I almost did. But anyway, I want you to listen. You can click on her image and listen while we all wait. I'm going to click on it just to make sure that everything is working and that you can hear all the info. Make sure that your speakers are up as you're listening. Perfect. Perfect. Okay, great. So after you are done watching that little video, again, based on only the video, what type of person do you think this character is? What clues made you think that? So there's clues and a lot of things that are going on that make you think that. I can see that Elijah has said that he sees her as brave. I love the clip, by the way. Um, and it says that she's brave for standing up in front of everyone to speak. Callie stated that. confident, that she's confident because of how she talks. Okay. And then again, for those that don't know how to use, pardon the bell, for those of you who don't know how to use Padlet, all you have to do is click this button right here on the bottom right. You're going to click on that. It will take you to something like this. You can simply write your answer unless you want to get really fancy and attach a photo or a clip, kind of like what Elijah did, but just your response is enough. Again, make sure it's school appropriate. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to do that while that pops up, and then we will go from there. I like the responses that I'm seeing so far. Very good. Okay. All right. So let's move on a little bit. All right. Let's move into um, exactly what's happening. Okay. So now that you've shared your ideas about what type of person you think that Amani is, let's learn how authors reveal what a character is really like. Okay. Um, All right, so let's start here. Sasha scanned the cafeteria, noticed a student sitting alone, and walked over without hesitation. She slid her tray onto the table and smiled. Mind if I sit here? She asked. When the student nodded, Sasha began chatting about the math test, hoping to make them feel at ease. What kind of person does Sasha seem to be? Okay, so respond in the chat. Okay, respond in the chat of what kind of person you think that Sasha is. You guys did a really good job of this whenever we were doing the warm up with Amani. So just reading the text, I want you to show me what kind of person Sasha seems to be, just based on the text. Okay. All right. You want to raise your hand? Okay, perfect. Okay. All right, Callie, what do you have? She seems nice. Okay, she does seem nice. Um, keep that in mind. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, good, 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 good. She seems nice. Okay, she seems positive. Okay, she seems helpful. Okay, that was a good one. Nice. All right, very good. Okay. All right. So, characterization. It's the way the author describes a character. An author brings a character to life for the reader by revealing the character used throughout a story. Now, there's two ways that this can be done. This can be done in through direct characterization, and then it can be done through indirect characterization. Direct characterization is when the author directly, and that's kind of easy to remember, tells the reader about the character. The reader doesn't get to unpeel, kind of like an onion. The reader doesn't get to unpeel or discover a character. Instead, the reader is told exactly what a character is or is like. So, for example, with Sasha, the author could have simply said Sasha is kind and outgoing. Okay, she's kind and outgoing. The author of Sasha's story tells you the trait. They flat out tell you that she is kind and that she is outgoing. Dare I say, it is less interesting to read. Okay. So direct instruction, it's going to be right there for you. It's going to be a blatant statement of who that character is. Okay, so now with indirect characterization, I want you to keep in mind the acronym STEAL, STEAL. Indirect characterization is when the author does not blatantly tell us what the character is or is like, but rather gives us pieces to a puzzle, okay? You get a little bit of this and you get a little bit of that. And this allows the reader to connect more with the character. Okay, the author shows the character's traits again through STEAL. The STEAL is an acronym. It means speech, thoughts, effects on others, actions, and their looks. So we can gather information indirectly from a character's speech by the way they talk, by the way that they think, effects on others, actions, and looks. A lot of the things that we've gone over in the past couple of weeks is going to help us to understand this on what authors say, the point of view that the author chooses to tell the book in, and those kinds of things. So, how to infer, that meaning infer is how to read between those lines. So, you're going to identify the still clues that you find in any text. You're going to ask what those clues reveal. And then you're going to infer a trait based on that evidence. Okay. So, we're going to base those traits, those characteristics that we find based on the evidence we find in the text. Okay. All right. So just to elaborate and to help you model just a little bit, I'm going to go back to the quick story of Sasha. Again, it says Sasha scanned the cafeteria. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to do my best to pick out those clues or those pieces of evidence that are throughout the text that will help me to understand what type of character this is. First of all, I think that we can all agree, right? Okay, shake your head no if you don't agree, or thumbs down if you don't agree, that this is not a direct characterization. Sasha does not have direct characterization. The author doesn't flat out tell us that Sasha is kind, or she's outgoing, or she's helpful. Okay, so those were good things that you guys had thought about, but they didn't flat out tell us that in the text. Okay, so let's read it again. Sasha scanned the cafeteria. She noticed a student sitting alone and walked over with hesitation. So I'm going to stop right there. What does that tell us um, about Sasha's characteristics? What does that tell us about her characterization? Well, she walked over without hesitation. Okay, what is that? Is that speech? Is that her thoughts? Is it her actions, her effects on others, the way she looks? Well, because she walked, which is a verb, I'm going to call that action. Okay, so this is action. She's showing her characteristics through action. Okay, I'm going to keep going. She slid her tray onto the table and smiled. And she smiled. Okay, smiled. She doesn't say anything. It is a form of an action. However, this one falls a little bit more under looks. Okay, when somebody smiles at you, it tells you a lot about their character. Okay. And when she smiles, she says, "Mind if I sit here?" she asked. Okay. Mind if I sit here? She asked a question. Was it a rude question? Did she say, "I'm going to move out. I want you to move out of the way so I can sit there"? No, she said, "Mind if I sit here?" And even though it tells us about her characteristic, using the STILL acronym or the clues, it shows us through her speech what kind of character she is. Okay, let's keep going. When the student nodded and smiled, okay, again, now we're talking about the student. We're no longer talking about Sasha, so we're changing point of view a little bit. When the student nodded and smiled, Sasha began chatting about the math test. Okay, so the student, the students nodded and smiled. Now, if Sasha would have approached this student differently, not smiled, said something different, may have a different outcome. But because of the effect that Sasha had on that student, the student nodded and smiled in return. Okay, and then the last part of it says that Sasha began chatting about the math test, hoping to make them feel at ease. Hoping to make them feel at ease. What could that be? As you've noticed, we've gone through all the still elements. We have speech, and you're not always going to have every single clue. You're not going to have every part of the still clues in every passage that you read, but there are a lot of them that we can go through. And in this stance, there is actually, in this example, I'm sorry, there is actually one of each. And this one in particular is thoughts, okay? Hoping to make them feel at ease. So Sasha, she didn't say out loud, "Oh gosh, I'm hoping to make her feel at ease," okay? Instead, this is what she was thinking. These were her thoughts that she had in her head. This was her motive, and it tells us a lot about her character. Okay, so as you're walking through, as you're trying to find evidence in these passages, just remember that STILL acronym. Are they showing you who they are through their actions? Their looks, their speech, their effects on others, their thoughts, or did the author directly tell you? That gives you a clue while you're analyzing the text of whether it is direct or whether it is indirect characterization. All right, let's try another one. So this one you're going to do with me. I'm going to read a little passage about Jordan. It says, Jordan slouched in his chair, tapping his pencil while everyone else worked quietly. Every few seconds, he glanced at the clock while Mrs. Tyler walked by. He quickly glanced at the clock. Sorry. When Mrs. Taylor walked by, he quickly covered his unfinished worksheet with his arm, hoping she wouldn't notice. All right, so thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, in your video, make sure that your video is on. Thumbs down. I'm not quite sure. Okay, I want there to be a halfway mark. So you're the thumbs up, thumbs down, okay, or right in the middle. All right, so let's practice. Is the author giving us direct characterization or indirect characterization about Jordan? Thumbs up, direct characterization. Thumbs down for indirect characterization. Okay, okay, I see that the majority of you did say thumbs down. Not that that's negative, but that it is indirect because it doesn't flat out tell us, it doesn't directly tell us the kind of character that Jordan is. They tell us a lot of things about Jordan in this passage, but they don't directly tell us his type of character. All right, so second question. If it is indirect characterization, what steel clues are present in the text? Again, raise your hand to answer or type it over there in the chat room. Okay, go ahead and speak. Let me turn your mic on. I'm sorry. Okay, so the author is showing characterization of Jordan through actions. Okay, he's slouched in his chair. He's tapping his pencil. Very good. Um, and then it shows the effects on everybody else. And the effects on everybody else were what? I'm sorry. Oh, everybody else was working quietly, and Jordan was being a distraction. Okay, okay, that's good. Anybody else? Okay, hoping she wouldn't notice. That's a good catch. That's a very good catch. Okay, so what is that? What kind of steel clue is that? Thoughts. Yes. He was hoping that she wouldn't notice. He wasn't wanting, it shows his type of character that he wasn't wanting to stand out in that instance. Very good. Okay, so what can you infer about Jordan? He's distracted easily. Very good. He's having a hard time concentrating. Okay. Anybody else? He was embarrassed. Okay. Okay. Shy. Those are good too. Okay, great. Good, good. And yes, we can agree. Okay. It's a thumbs down, but indirect characterization is how this author has chosen to tell us about Jordan and what type of character he is in this passage. Very nice. Okay, what could be added to the passage just to show direct characterization? What could be added to this passage to show direct? Okay. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, that's good. At the end, it could say that Jordan was embarrassed because he didn't study the night before. He has a tendency to be put everything off to the last minute. Okay, that's good. Good, good. Okay, thank you. All right. Again, if you didn't feel comfortable talking, please make sure that you have a response in the chat so I can give you credit for your participation. Okay. Thank you. All right. All right. So your exit question for independent practice. You're going to click on the link that I put in the class, and it is a link to a formative assessment and you can visit the formative assessment either through ClassLink or through Google Classroom. You'll have 5 questions. And then you're going to visit the presentation in Google Classroom if you need help. Okay, so this is already posted in Google Classroom if you need a reference back for help. Okay, so before we go, today you learned how authors develop characters through direct and indirect characterization. You practiced using the still method and supported your thinking with textual evidence. Nice job. So I want to show you Again, this link for independent practice, it's only 5 questions, but it's going to help me see that you understood what we just talked about. Click on it in the link, either in Google Classroom, you can visit Formative through ClassLink, and it will be there waiting for you. But I'm going to show you really quickly what it looks like. Okay, here we go. So whenever it pops up, because the internet is so lovely, there we go. The link will take you directly to a page that looks like this informative. Okay. Direct and indirect characterization assessment. It's created by me. All you're going to do is click start. Again, you're going to have a couple of questions that you're going to go through. Your instructions. I can analyze how an author develops a character to help me better understand the story. If you hit next, the questions will pop up. Which of the following sentences is an example of direct characterization? Please don't say it in the chat. Thank you. And you're going to scroll through. Again, there are 5 questions that are very similar. When you're done, you'll simply log out. Last one would be another passage. After analyzing the passage, which statement best describes the characterization used to help you understand the story? Okay, very good. And then you're just going to hit submit, and then you'll be all done. Okay, well, thank you guys for showing up and for hanging out with me this morning, learning about direct and indirect characterization. And we'll see you guys tomorrow in class. Have a good day.